Picture this. You're up on a mountain, overlooking the horizon. Nothing feels real. Except time. Time is at a standstill. All that matters are you and the sunrise. The only thing you can focus on in this moment is you. And it's wonderful. Peaceful, isn't it? So calm, so tranquil, and real. That is, until you fall down a mountain and watch our boy Link here tumble down the mountain and break several bones. But for that brief moment up top, you truly felt an escape. Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is ETHBoyPlays, and today we're going to be talking about a topic that I have wanted to talk about for a while now. And that topic is immersion. Specifically, immersion in video games. But anyways, enough of my pre-intro rambling. You've all read the title, you all know why you're here, so let's dive straight in. So in order to understand how gaming as a medium uses immersion, we need to first understand what immersion is. Immersion is described as something which involves deep mental involvement. So take horror movies for example. You know that you're not in any danger because you're watching a film, and films aren't real. But because you're immersed in the film, you feel as though you're right there with the character as whatever is putting their lives at risk hunts them down. That's why at the start of this video, you might have felt relaxed by that opening shot, or like you were really there with Link on that mountain. And that's what makes gaming so compelling, because it forces you to become intimately involved with the game and its environments. And this has been something the gaming industry has been experimenting with since the early 90s. To illustrate this, I want to take a look at one of my favorite game franchises, Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles is a masterclass in immersion for a 2D game. I know I just said gaming franchise is Sonic the Hedgehog, but like we gotta look at the GOAT here. I'm sorry, Sonic 3 is just such a masterpiece. Because unlike its predecessors, Sonic 2 and Sonic CD, this game chose to handle its visual story in a really unique way that even the later 2D games like Sonic Mania or even later like Knuckles Chaotix, they couldn't replicate what this mysterious secret ingredient was. What is this mysterious secret ingredient, you ask? It can be summed up in two simple words: stage transitions. Now I know all you Mania lovers are like grabbing your pitchforks and be like, Mania had stage transitions, but just hear me out. The reason stage transitions made Sonic 3 such a memorable game is because they added a new layer of depth to the visual storytelling that the 2D games could convey. And they got really intricate with this. Like, Sonic 3's transitions have never been reproduced or recreated. They were that unique and influential. To demonstrate this, we're going to talk about Mania a little bit, because yes, it is true that Sonic Mania does have stage transitions, but what makes Mania's transitions different is, like to Sonic 3's, is Mania's involves time travel, dimensional warping. We never really found out what it's the problem with Mania's transitions is they were fluent in some cases, but not fluent in others. For example, from the start of Angel Island, you get warped to Green Hill, and from Green Hill you get warped to Chemical Plant. From Chemical Plant, you actually travel to Studiopolis. And then from Studiopolis, you do travel to Flying Battery, and Flying Battery, you do travel to Press Garden, but Press Garden, you get warped to Little Planet. And that's the problem. You had like 3 or 4 stages there that were sequential, and you followed your characters from location to location without a warp. But then midway through your locations, you get a random warp, and it breaks the immersion. Which is why I prefer Sonic 3's stage transitions over Mania's, because Sonic 3's transitions are all sequential because you're all stuck on Angel Island. So to demonstrate this idea, let's take Angel Island as a intro level into context. So the game picks up right after Sonic 2, obviously, why wouldn't it? And Sonic just straight up goes super to explore this new frontier. Get it? New frontier, because the new game's frontiers. I'll show myself out. Anyways, so Sonic goes super, and what this does is this informs the player that not only that your upgraded Golden Boy from the last game is here to stay, but also that Sonic has deemed this new landscape treacherous enough or unfamiliar enough to have to essentially turn on God mode. And the kicker? Just as you activate God mode and fly from the tornado, through the luscious beaches, and right into the heart of the forest, this little red bastard shows up and knocks you out of God mode. And then to make matters worse, he steals your magical rocks and runs away like the little shit he is. So, when you're thrust into the stage, your first thought is, oh my god, I need to get my magical rocks back. And there are countless other video essays talking about Angel Island's fantastic level design and how it's a great first level, so I won't harp on that too much here, but Angel Island's freedom of exploration is excellent because you get to really understand the layout, really understand the land, and really understand like the controls and the playstyle, which is awesome because midway through the stage, after you've just gone through these lovely set pieces of blue sparkling water and waterfalls and hills and grass that's greener than green, and then you meet one of Eggman's robots. And what is Eggman gonna do within 3 seconds of being on Angel Island? Oh, you know, just turn the once beautiful vista into literal hell. Or, you know, as we like to call it, Australia in 2020. But Eggman just straight up set this beautiful, luscious landscape on fire, so now your second objective has been revealed to you. Now, not only do you have to find your magical rocks, which, you know, if you've been clever, you should have about 2 by the end of Act 1 and 3 by the end of the zone, but you also now have to stop the big mustached man from burning this place to the ground, which isn't easy, as he not only is busy setting the island on fire and ruining the ancestral home of the little red man, and is packing enough firepower to intimidate the US military. No wonder those guys got involved back in Adventure 2. But that's okay, because you eventually beat the bald man and send him fleeing with his tail in between his legs. And just as you're about to catch him as he's running off into the horizon, you're stopped dead in your tracks by the same guy who stole your magic rocks. And what does our lovely comrade here do? Oh, you know, what every gamer in the 90s was hoping for. He pushes a button that sends you directly to a water level. Fun. But, if it isn't obvious already, Sonic Team did a fantastic job of setting up Knuckles. That's this red man that I've been bitching about for the last 2 minutes here. They did a fantastic job of setting Knuckles up as your main obstacle in the game, in addition to Eggman, which makes total sense as you play the game, because of course Knuckles will always be in your way trying to progress, and he's always one step ahead of you because this is his home. In all seriousness, what that rather goofy reiteration of the story demonstrates is it demonstrates Sonic 3's incredible usage of stage transitions because it directly involves the player in the mystery of what is going on. If this was your first Sonic game back in the 90s, what this opening does is it gives you enough context for what you have to do, but enough mystery to want you to know. But in all seriousness, what this rather goofy reiteration of the story of Sonic 3 demonstrates is it demonstrates Sonic 3's incredible usage of stage transitions because it directly involves the player in the mystery of what is going on. If this was your first Sonic game back in the 90s, what this opening does is it gives you enough context for what you have to do, but enough mystery to keep the player engaged and wanting to keep playing. Like, after that first drop into Hydro City Zone, yeah, it's pronounced Hydro City Zone, none of this hydrocity bullshit. After that first drop into Hydro City Zone, of course you're going to naturally be curious about who is this red guy? Where did my magic rocks go? And how do I get them back? Now, I could talk about this game for a very long time. So, to summarize, Sonic 3 does a fantastic job of emphasizing the trilogy's core main theme of nature versus technology. Because within the first 2 minutes, the once beautiful nature is set on fire by technology, and the mystery factors are cranked up to 11 as the game goes on. I have vivid memories of playing Sonic Classic Collection on my Nintendo 3DS, like in my childhood. And I remember playing Sonic 3 Knuckles and playing Angel Island for the first time, and I was really enjoying it. And I remember specifically like loving the water and how pretty and sparkly it looked, and I was like, oh my god, wouldn't it be like cool if I could go here? And wow, this is such a beautiful location. And then being absolutely horrified that I could not stop the robot midway through Act 1 from setting the world on fire. And I remember restarting after that and saying like, I need to be faster, I can stop him. And the sad truth was, I couldn't. And that motivated me to try and beat the game, to keep going. Which is pretty incredible that a game from the 90s being played in the early 2000s on a handheld console can motivate a stupid little 8-year-old who doesn't really understand how platformers work outside of the new Super Mario Bros. Series on his Wii. I'd say that's doing a pretty good job. That is why immersion is one of the most important parts of video games, because immersion makes you feel, and it forces you to care about what you're doing. Therefore, the most logical steps in making you care would be to literally put you in the eyes of the video game character you're playing as. Of course, the logical next step from this immersion in the 2D landscape would be technology-based. And in the gaming world, well, of course, that would be virtual reality. Simply put, virtual reality, it's pretty fucking cool. And what I want to talk about with virtual reality is why it's so immersive. And you're probably thinking, well, Ethan, isn't it obvious the reason it's so immersive is because you're literally putting a headset on your head and, being the game character? And I would be like, yes, thank you, commenter. That's very helpful and very insightful. It's almost as if you can read my script. Because we as a society, we are technologically at the point where we can literally put helmets on our heads and be transported to another world and feel like we are really there. So yes, commenter, you're right. That is where I'm going with this. But I don't think what gets talked about enough is it's such a magical experience. Because psychologically, it forces you to feel and experience everything firsthand. That's why on the internet there are like floods of those videos of people in VR, like falling over from fear, or sometimes in those like metal stations, like the little like octagonal ring, and they're literally running away from danger in VR, and it's like so funny. But also what's really funny is if you look at a person like in VR doing things, like it looks so unnatural, and it looks really weird in the real world, but in the normal virtual world for these people, like it is normal, right? This point got so fucked up by speech to text. Oh my god. We're gonna go from, and it is such a magical experience. Let's drink some water. And it is such a magical experience because psychologically it forces you to feel and experience everything firsthand. That's why there's so many videos on like YouTube and Instagram where you have like people in those octagonal little things with like the metal floor, and they're on their socks, and like they're like sprinting and they're running away from whatever they're playing. Like whatever horror game they're playing, they're running away from the enemy. That's why we like watching YouTubers play things like FNAF Help Wanted or Resident Evil in VR or Skyrim in VR. We like it because it's scary and it's real to them, and they feel like they're actually experiencing it in the moment. Now you may be asking, okay, that's great, but why? Why is VR so important to immersion in video games? And the reason VR is so important to being immersive in video games is because VR makes you feel. And for example, like I vividly remember for my 14th and 15th, maybe even 16th too, my 14th and 15th birthday party respectively, I went to a VR arcade here on the island with all of my buddies, and oh my god, it was ridiculously fun to just hang out with all of my friends and watch them be immersed in the action and have fun. And I remember the two most popular games out of my friend group were Super Hot and a zombie shooter that I want to say like Sunset Paradise or something. I don't know, but it was a co-op zombie shooter, so that was the main appeal. And it was just so much fun watching my buddies play like a zombie shooter co-op and hearing them like yell at each other and hear them getting terrified and like directing each other on where to go and what to do and complaining when their partner wasn't like doing what they needed. I really enjoyed watching them play Super Hot, and that's a game that I'll get into in a minute here, but what was really fun about the VR arcade was just watching my friends be immersed in gaming. And I think that's another thing that's like really special about it too, is people really enjoy playing games, especially co-op games with each other, because they feel connected and it creates a community. And if your game doesn't have that immersion, people won't want to play it, and if people won't want to play it, then how are you going to create that community, right? Like, that's why immersion is so important in co-op games. And it doesn't have to be really like in-depth immersion with the likes of like Super Hot or Red Dead 2. Like, people love Mario Kart, and like that has a really high suspension of disbelief. But back to Super Hot. The main gimmick of Super Hot is that time moves when you move. The twist, it's a shooter. Well, not really a shooter. Well, kind of is a shooter, but it's also a shooter of its own genre. It's super cool. It was originally developed for PC and sold on Steam, and then eventually it got ported to VR. And the concept of Super Hot was really, really interesting, considering it was a shooter that basically put you in bullet time constantly. Arguably the most immersive part of Super Hot is its gameplay and presentation. And what makes the gameplay so immersive is the fact that you are going from set piece to set piece within the level and being thrown new challenge after new challenge after new challenge after new challenge. And the best part about being thrown all these challenges is you have a very unique way of dealing with each of them, and it will be different from each person. Now, of course, the game has a specific way it wants you to beat the level and will often try and guide you in that way, but with a little creativity and outside the box thinking, each player can inject their own individuality and their own playstyle onto it and solve puzzles in various different ways. The second aspect that makes Super Hot such an immersive game experience is the presentation, and the reason the presentation is so immersive is because of all the natural benefits of VR immersion, coupled with this very spectacle-heavy, intense shooter. And even removing the VR aspect, like Super Hot on its own is so immersive because of how action-packed and quick it is. Like, you're moving from set piece to set piece to set piece, and you're constantly in danger, constantly having to fight your way through these waves of enemies, while really having no idea what's going on. Story definitely must have taken a back seat in that game because I don't remember it. That's a blooper, but I'm probably gonna leave that in. Accidentally roasting Super Hot, oops. But the reason VR Super Hot is so immersive, other than the natural benefits of VR immersion, is its spectacle-heavy, intense shooter core gameplay. And that's why I fell in love with the game, is back to the VR arcade story. I remember playing through one of the levels in the VR Super Hot, and I sound like such a boomer. In Super Hot, and I can't remember what it was called, but I do remember that I was hiding behind a pillar and I was getting shot at, and my gun had broken, because they could break in the game if they get shot. And I remember my gun had broken and I was like absolutely petrified because this was my third attempt on it and I was so close to winning. I knew it. And I was like, oh my god, I need to win this. I need it. So I remember being so scared. This is so stupid. I remember being so scared that I literally laid on the floor in fetal position and waited. I was like, okay, I'm gonna play this like a stealth game. If I lay in the fetal position... If I lay in the fetal position on the floor in this VR arcade, like behind this pillar in this world, I can totally be safe. The guys will go away and then I can complete the level. I'll be stealthy and sneaky, it'll be great. And I forgot the main gimmick of the game, which is that time moves when I move, which is not great if I'm lying on the floor in the fetal position. What was even funnier is my buddy Oliver was just like, what are you doing there, Ethan? And I'm like, lying on the floor to hide, and he's like, oh, that's That's nice. Oh, good times. But then it finally dawns. So it finally dawns on me that the game isn't moving because I'm not moving. So I'm like, oh, I have no way out of this. So I stand up, I get shot, and I restart the level. But that's what I love about Superhot, is depending on the type of person you are, you will have your own individual experience with the game. And the reason why it's so immersive is because of an addictive gameplay feedback loop. Oh my god. With tight controls and an amazing OST, like, oh, it's just so good. It's so addictive. I love it. And all of this culminates together and benefits immensely from VR's natural immersion. It just created a recipe for success. And another game that I mentioned previously on here that I want to talk about real quick is FNAF Help Wanted. And this is another really good example of the benefits of VR because it takes the original horror aspect from the OG FNAF series and allows it to not only be a completely fresh retelling of what's going on, but it also makes it even more scary because you're right there with the animatronics, and the animatronics are coming to get you, and you see that through your eyes, and it's terrifying. But all this talk about VR is making me want to impulsively buy a VR headset, so Sony, if you ever want to reach out to me and give me a PS4 VR headset to review, I will happily do that for you, free of charge. No problem. Anyways, before I break the bank and have to sell my soul to the devil, we better summarize. So what makes VR so incredibly important for video game immersion from a technological standpoint is it puts the player right in the action and forces them to get directly involved right from the get-go. And it's much more enriching and completely just changes the experience and is creating something magical. And speaking of creating enriching experiences, we're going to move on to the last couple of games that I really want to talk about. And those games are, well, do I even really need to introduce them? Red Dead Redemption 2. I have been wanting to talk about this game since Christmas. I love this game. And another game I also love is Deus Ex, and they are two of the most immersive video game series I have ever had the pleasure of playing. Which is funny because they are two very different genres. Where Red Dead Redemption 2 is set in a Western setting and gives you a strong sense of verisimilitude as you're forced to live as Arthur Morgan and go through a very grounded and realistic story. Deus Ex, it's super different. While you still get that strong sense of verisimilitude and that strong sense that the world your characters is experiencing is real, Red Dead is based off the actual old Western society, and Deus Ex is set in a dystopian future where people can literally become half cyborg and augment themselves. Polarizing, right? But what I love about these two games is how they immerse the audience through their storytelling. Deus Ex is really good at immersing the player through its storytelling by allowing the player to go through it at its own pace. If you want to be incredibly violent and just beat up everybody in your path and not care about the story, you totally can. Great. You don't have to know a single thing about it. You can just be the guy and try not to die. But if you are an absolute nerd like me, and you want to know about every ounce of the lore to this world, but if you're an absolute nerd like me, and you want to know every ounce of lore this world has to offer you, you can do that too. And I think my favorite part about this series as a whole is just both the conversations you can have with characters and how you can structure them. So for example, you can walk into your boss's office and your boss will tell you that, Jensen, you have to go to Japan. You want to respond. You can be eager and be like, yes boss, I'll go. Or you can be edgy and be like, I do things my own way. Or you could just be neutral and not respond. And I love choices like that because with different characters and different conversations, you can totally have different paths and get different character dynamics and interactions, and it just adds so much replayability, and it's just amazing. The second part about Deus Ex that makes it so great for immersion in video games is its storytelling. And I love that there is so much extra content and context hidden behind emails and phone calls and little diegetic pieces of storytelling that can be completely missed if you don't go looking for them. And that's what I loved about this series, as I loved putting the pieces together bit by bit and slowly realizing what was going on. It should also be known that I have like an incredible soft spot for the first 2 entries in Adam Jensen's storyline, because when I was little and like in grade 7, grade 8, I played through both of these with my dad late at night, and we got to experience them together, which I have a ton of fondness for. But my knowledge of the series is relatively minuscule, so I think it's only fitting that we talk to my partner in crime, the person who experienced the series with me from the get-go.
Welcome to episode 1, where Ethan interviews his dad.
Okay. Alright, so this is the part in the video where I'm talking about the Deus Ex franchise, and since I learned about that through you, I figured who better than to talk about why it's such a great franchise thing. So, what I'm talking about in my video essays, I'm talking about Immersion, and I remember you loving Deus Ex for its story and how immersive it is. So, like, my first question is, like, what about the franchise do you love so much?
The dystopian nature of corrupt capitalism.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. I think capitalism is already corrupt. However, with all of the other ideas of how to run the economy globally, that capitalism has been the number one arena where we've been able to keep most of the world fed and clothed and sheltered.
Yeah.
It does fail, but other ideas fail worse.
For sure. Yeah.
So when I look at Deus Ex, I see there's like, we're not playing with any middle class. Middle class is like gone.
True. Adam's like the only representation of middle class.
And when he breaks into apartments to do stuff, it's for gangster stuff or for his mission, and we don't come across a nice family having their dinner at 5:30, 6 o'clock, where everybody's sitting down. And today, even with a pandemic, I feel like those things are lost.
Yeah.
Those family values are gone. Yeah. So when we look at Deus Ex, we get into this fantasy world of augmentation to make ourselves better, which could be a metaphor for the lost idea of family values, and we're still trying to make ourselves better, but we don't have any parental or leadership speaking into us anymore. There's lots of metaphor, lots of ideas behind why I'm so immersed in this product of Deus Ex.
For sure. Yeah. Well, and I think what I was talking about, like even in the essay, is like I'm getting really immersed in Red Dead 2, and simply for the fact that it's just so real. And I think that has to do with, like, presentation. And so my second question is, like, what about the presentation, like, made you fall in love with it? Like...
Well, define presentation.
So, define presentation. What I love about Red Dead Redemption 2 is you learn about your main character, Arthur Morgan, and you learn about his relationship with your gang of cowboys through riding on horseback with different members during different missions. And it's just all exposition, all dialogue, all while you're riding your horse.
Right.
So I love how authentic and natural it is, and I love learning about the gang from each gang member's point of view. Mm-hmm. It really enriches the world and makes it feel alive. So where do you get that same sense from Deus Ex? Because, like, I just like playing the game and running through and shooting all the bad guys, reading a couple of emails and being like, oh, that happened, cool, and moving on.
Well, I think when, because Grandpa was RCMP, so he was, the policeman going out and making sure that there were, there's peace in the street, but in Deus Ex, there's no peace in the street. And the main character was blown up and then put back together and augmented as half robot, basically.
Yeah, unwillingly, mind you.
Yes, unwillingly. However, I also think what's attractive to the character and the storyline is you get to choose 3 different ways that you're augmented, and you get to choose what your powers are, what your strengths are. Same thing in life. You grow up and you say, well, I'm not a baseball player, I'm a swimmer.
Okay.
But with this, it fills in a fantasy that maybe I'm not very good at being a sharpshooter, so I'm going to augment that in my eye and my nervous system, so I can be the best sharpshooter.
Okay.
So it plays to ego and desire to be better at something that you're not good at, and even something that maybe is not socially acceptable, because how many sharpshooters do we actually need in worlds that is not war?
Right.
So to have these skills, with Adam, I think I like his autonomy. I like his ability to be alone. I like that he has an apartment, but only goes there to hide some stuff and pick a few things up, and he lives everywhere. And I think that's also an overshadowing metaphor for how we have these dreams and fantasies to be better than what we are.
Yeah. All right.
Number 3.
My third and final question is, when it comes to the game, like, what's your favorite part? Is it like the gameplay and finding out the story at your own pace? Is it the character of Adam Jensen?
No, it's the suspense.
Yeah?
I love suspense.
Okay.
Like, even with the game franchise Thief.
Yeah.
Which I was really never good at, but like with the franchise Thief, you get this assignment where you have to go and steal these gems, and you can do melee, knife, or arrows.
Yeah.
There's no guns. There's swords. And you have to hide in the shadows, and you break into this like castle thing, and you hear the guard coming, so then you have to figure out how to hide behind the tapestry, or you shoot an arrow with a rope and you hide in the rafters while the guard walks by, but then the guard is going to impede your mission, so then you have to jump back down on him to knock him out. But if you don't kill him and you only knock him out, you only have so many minutes to finish your mission before he wakes up.
Yeah.
And then they can chase you, and if you don't hide properly, they find you and kill you. So with Deus Ex, I like where he has to break in somewhere, and he has to use his tools to break in through the lock, but he's got to be quiet to not alert the robots and the security systems. And I thought what was fun when you and I would play the game, and unfortunately, as aging is aging, you don't become so quick with trying to figure out which robot am I shooting, and then you come along like, oh, this one, boom, 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 because you have way more playtime than me, and my playtime was like Atari.
Yeah.
Like Pac-Man.
Pac-Man's so addictive, though. Oh, Pac-Man's so addictive, though.
So that's what I really like about Deus Ex, is the suspense. Like when he walks into the bar or the club, and he's going to talk to somebody, if it's the wrong person or he says the wrong thing, it sets off a war or a gun shooting thing, and then 2 days later when you log back in, if you try to go to the same bar, they remember you and you still can't go in. And so I like the suspense and the storytelling.
I think one of my favorite parts was the freedom to play the way you want to play. If you don't care about the story, you don't have to care about the story. But I really loved playing with you, and then my favorite part would be when you would try and talk to someone and you'd accidentally beat them up.
Yeah, because I pressed the wrong button. Hi! I'm like, oh, wrong button. Sorry.
We have to restart. All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Are we ending our? Oh, I guess this is the conclusion of our interview. Thank you, Ethan.
What are you gonna do now? Why?
Well, Ethan, I would like to thank you for the time to take this interview to learn more a little bit about Deus Ex and Adam's life and what EOS might be doing or EDOS might be doing with the new franchise.
Yes.
And we would just like to thank our production company, Atlas Productions, for, I don't know, we're doing this for free, so they really didn't do anything. Okay.
Well, thank you for your time. It's appreciated.
Bye-bye!
Bye! The second game I want to talk about is Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, I have not played this game for a very long time. In fact, I'm only on chapter 2, but I knew I had to talk about this game from the moment I started playing it. Like, I have been wanting to talk about Red Dead Redemption 2 since Christmas when I got the game. It is that good. Like, I have not played a game like this ever, and it is something so very special. What makes Red Dead Redemption so incredibly immersive is it's very real. And it forces you to connect to this world in every way possible. There are 3 ways this game decides to do that. The first being its stunning visuals. Like, this game looks incredible, and I'm playing it on the original Xbox One that released in, I want to say 2013. I'm 80% sure, like, it released in 2013. And my dinosaur of an Xbox One is still playing the game no problem, and it looks fantastic. It's rendering really well, and it just makes the immersion factor go up. Its graphic fidelity is just so good. The second thing Red Dead does that's really amazing, though, is Red Dead teaches you how to play the games so organically. Its gameplay is not only incredibly organic and is taught to you in the best way possible, but it's explained to you very slowly. And I liked that, because chapter 1 starts you off with your character Arthur Morgan, and you're not given any clues as to where you are or what's happening. All you know is that you are on the top of a mountain in the middle of a blizzard, and you need to survive. The game quickly establishes the horse riding mechanics as well as the relationship Arthur has with the gang's leader, Dutch, and his soon-to-be right-hand man, Micah. And what I love about this game is right off the bat, when you're in the cabin for the first time, meeting the cast, Dutch is giving his speech and big red flags go off immediately. I was like getting major cult vibes from him. I was like, this dude's a cult leader. Like, this is problematic for everyone involved. Like, this dude is bad news. He needs to be stopped. And I still have a hard time trusting him, and I'm only on chapter 2. So in chapter 1, what Dutch did is Dutch takes Arthur and Micah, and they go to this cabin to look for supplies so they don't die on the mountain. So what the 3 end up doing is they end up looking for their 2 scouts, and they also end up looking for supplies, and they just happen to run across this cabin. And the game very sneakily introduces you both to the combat mechanics of Red Dead Redemption 2, and from a narrative perspective, it teaches you that the cabin is held up by your rival gang, the O'Driscolls. And it immediately establishes that they are the rival gang, and they're going to be an absolute thorn in your side for a while. And so after you have an intense shootout and loot the cabin for all it's worth, which is also the game teaching you how to search for things and the importance of material gathering, so that was a smart bout of game design, you're sent to the barn to look for horses and to see if anyone's there. And around this time, I've been playing the game for like 10 or 15 minutes, so I was very, very new. Like, I hadn't even figured out how to sprint yet. And I see this guy in the barn, and I'm all hyped up on adrenaline from the epic shootout and the anticipation of, oh my god, is somebody gonna be there. And what the game does is it forces you into a fight, a good old-fashioned fist. So you fight and you fight the guy, and eventually you get him into a chokehold. And before you can start beating up on him, Dutch interferes, and he's like, well now, partner, look what we got here, huh? Oh, you can do whatever you like with him, I don't care. And all he wants you to do is take his horse. That's all he wants. And I was like, all right, sure, I can do this. Like, I got no problem. I just want to intimidate him, that's all. Maybe beat him up a couple more times, just so he doesn't become a nuisance again, like try and knock him out so I don't have to worry about witnesses. And then I accidentally beat him to death, because I punched him 3 times. And I felt so bad. I was like, shit, no, I didn't want to beat him to death. Oh my god. And that's when the game taught me about the morality system and how there are certain choices that you make that you can't go back on. Now, of course, there's like no big penalty for beating up this guy in the mountains because like the police can't come catch you up there, but it taught me about the morality system, and I think that's what makes Deus Ex and Red Dead Redemption 2 so immersive, is their morality system mechanics. Both games have them, and both games do an excellent job at giving the player the choice to either be an asshole, kill everyone, or be a good guy and save people. And this is what I love about Red Dead Redemption 2, is you are walking that line very finely. And it's interesting because in certain story missions, Arthur Morgan's personality really comes out, and you can see that the character's choices are very different than the choices you might make in certain instances. For example, when in chapter 2, when you get to Valentine, there's a mission where you have to go save the priest because the priest is drunk because he's an alcoholic, and you have to go save the priest, and the priest is like just bumming around being a nuisance, so you have to go pick him up. And Arthur finds the priest where the priest was staying, and the priest was playing a game of poker, and the people he was playing with offer you a game. And Arthur's line of dialogue before that is very much leaning against, no, I don't want to play because I hate other people, but I chose to play poker because I wanted to learn about the mechanics in case it came up again. And it was just really interesting to see the awkward shift in personality in that moment. And it's weird because you would think that that would break immersion, but for some reason it immersed me more. And the reason it immersed me more is because I was torn, because yes, Arthur is the silent type who likes it rough and doesn't take any nonsense, but Ethan still hasn't figured out Red Dead's combat and is really bad at shooting. So I like playing nice. Like I'm a complete pushover sometimes. But what that moment did is it made me question, is what I'm doing what Arthur would do? It completely flipped the whole point of the whole concept of being a player character on its head, because it forces you to really contemplate your choices and feel the weight they have. And I've never had a game make me struggle with that, with morality like that before. Sometimes there's a temptation as I'm riding my horse to just like ride into town, and if someone even looks at me wrong, I'm very tempted to just shoot them, because I think that would be in character, and it's the Wild West, who cares? But at the same time, I also really have to weigh that choice. And that's why immersion is so powerful in video games, because a fictional game about a fictional Old West is making me feel guilty about killing not real people. That is why Red Dead Redemption 2 is so powerful, is this game is making me question my morality. And I am only on chapter 2. And I think what really helps players get attached to Arthur Morgan is how Red Dead Redemption chooses to display its dialogue and its exposition. And I have to say, it's one of my favorite ways displaying exposition, because this information could just be told to us by text on a screen. But as we know, that is very unsatisfying. Right, Sega? Right? Yeah, no, we hate it when we find out key plot elements over text. Anyway, poor business decisions aside, Rockstar could have chosen to have these conversations not be in the game, or they could have chosen to just have them happen in cutscenes and have the dialogue be silent on your ride, but they chose to make you form intimate connections as you ride on horseback with everyone. And that choice is what made me fall absolutely in love with this game. This game just manages to feel so real, and it manages to make you feel like you are a part of that world. What Red Dead Redemption 2 does is it does what every video game should do. It gives you an escape, allows you to forget about who you are, and you become the person that you're playing as, hence why it's called the player character. And that is why immersion is so important in video games. That's why we as gamers play games. We play games to escape, to forget about the real world, to forget about who we are, to become invested in a story, and to feel for the characters, to experience journeys and adventures with them. We play co-op games to be together with one another and have these experiences with each other. And most importantly, we play games to have fun. And that's why immersion is so crucial in video games, is because if you can't get your player to care, then what's the point of your game?